Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show, and we are very glad you joined us.
Sure.
I just read the notes, man. I just do what I'm told.
Okay.
I am joined in the Hilltop Studio by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Dabachi.
And we are ready to rock and roll. Doc Owen Show is all over social media, DOCOWENSHOW. The most current, the best way to find out when we're on the air is to follow us on Twitter. You're welcome to go out to the Facebook page, give us a like out there, and, friend us, whatever you can do. We post each show to the Facebook page. We also have a blog, docowenshow.com, where we post the show. Both of those are posted after the fact. Twitter notice will get you to listen to it live. And if that's not enough for your no dollar, then we have a free app for both the Android and Apple devices, where you can listen to the current show as well as our history. You can go back in time and, kind of follow a thought process or find a particular show that you want to listen to. So, we try to cover all of the bases and make ourselves available. We are on numerous podcast outlets, including, a well-known one, at least from our hometown, called iHeartRadio. And we are on the larger networks on both the East Coast and the West Coast. So we're out there. There's very little reason not to find us and to tell your friends to find us. We would love to have you. We always begin every show after that little, those self-promotions, which that's probably the last time you'll hear it unless we need a filler, and then we may go into promo mode. But as a rule, that's it. We then go into a traditional start of the show, which is where Ms. Surefire gives us a note of inspiration. Uncle Bocce follows that with something about today in history, and then I close it out with some sort of a kind of leadership quote. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from a site I haven't used in a while.
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of getting a little tired of pass it on.
Yeah.
I just passed it on this time.
There you
go.
go.
I was like, okay, I'm going to go with brainyquote.com.
Hadn't heard from them in a while.
Yeah.
That's BRAINY quote.com. And tonight's quote comes from a gentleman that most of us have heard of or studied, such as myself. His name was Aristotle.
Yay. My man.
I really appreciate Aristotle.
Dr. Stotle, we called him.
Yep.
Aristotle, yeah.
Yep. An ancient Greek philosopher and scientist.
Yep.
And his quote is, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it."
Ooh.
Hey. That's good.
Entertain a thought without accepting it.
That's right.
Interesting.
Well, good.
Democrats will hate that.
Yeah. I didn't want to say
understand
anything.
They totally hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And now it's
Uncle
Uncle Bocce. Here I am. Yes, on this day in 1770, and we talked about this a while ago, the British repealed the hated Townshend Act. That's the one where they were trying to have import taxes on everything that the colonies got from Britain.
Right.
Yeah. So they finally repeated them. Okay.
Repealed them.
What did I say?
Repeated.
They repealed them. Well,
Right.
an L looks like a T.
Typographical error.
It's okay, we got it.
Yeah. And
Oh-ho.
now, folks, one more.
Okay.
Now, you're going to think that I planned this whole thing out. Trust me, folks, I'm not that good. But
Trust him.
But you
on
might.
April the 12th, 1861, the Civil War begins. And what are we talking about? Abraham Lincoln. Isn't that cool?
Ooh, That's
It just
pretty
happened to come at the right time.
Nice.
There's no such thing as coincidence.
No, there's not. So obviously,
Kismet.
It was planned.
okay.
It was also the day after my birthday. Interesting. Okay. So
It's birthday week.
there you go. I have a quote from our friends at the Optimist Club, and it's in under the section called integrity. I'm sorry, folks. I am completely remiss in looking up anything about this author. So you are on your own.
Okay.
His name is Don Miguel Ruiz.
That's my uncle.
Or we'll talk about your uncle in a minute.
No.
Don Miguel Ruiz said, "Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip with others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love."
Good.
Like it?
I like that.
I like
one.
that.
Yeah, it's good.
That kind of falls into what I always say when people say something and then don't back it up with their actions. And I
Right.
say, your words have no value.
There
Correct.
you go.
Right.
Absolutely.
Pretty soon we're going to get a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, gave me a small book the other day. It's called God Bless America, and it's prayers and reflections for our country. We will start diving into this in terms of some good quotes and some good messages, just as an FYI.
Nice.
Sounds good to
Nice.
me.
As well as I need to make this is a very serious announcement because we've decided, it's springtime and it pretty soon will be coming up on summer, and family and friends this time of year tend to stop by and travel around and go see others, right? Just because of the weather, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're going to have some folks that are going to stop by intentionally on a Thursday night was when I told them to drop in, which is when we do our live broadcast. We may or may not expand our 3-person free meal to include them. We'll just have to see what time they can be here. But we've got an aunt, if I'm not mistaken, of Miss Surefire, and you said it's an aunt by marriage, right?
That's correct.
I mean, she's not really in the direct bloodline, right?
She's not from North Texas. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
And she's affectionately known as Aunt Bessie, and her entire name is Bessie McCullough.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, so Aunt Bessie McCullough.
That's
All
right.
And then come to find out, Uncle Botchy's got Kim folk coming in,
Oh.
and it just so happens that it's who Uncle Botchy is named after.
Oh.
I mean, it's his. This is true. It's Uncle Botchy's Uncle Botchy.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe that?
That's pretty
I mean, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And he's in the family. He's not by marriage. I mean, this guy's
he's
part of the
He's
flock.
one of the originals.
That's right. And his full name is Uncle Botchy Amilkula, right?
Okay.
They sound. It's really amazing that the end of those two names sound together, and we're going to put them all together at once. And I'm too old. I don't have any family.
No.
They're gone.
Oh,
So I'm gonna have a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine actually. One of them is an author who wrote a book about 6 or 7 years ago, and he has been off peddling his book this entire time. We've not seen him. And so he's going to stop by. His name's S.A. Hillcrest.
Oh,
I think you'll enjoy hearing from him what he has to say about his travels and his book and what all he's done since then, et cetera. And then another one, this guy is, I have to forewarn you, he's out there. No pun intended. He's the actual, and I'm one of the few like normal people he communicates with.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
I know that somebody took credit not too long ago, a vice president of the United States at the time, or shortly before or after, for inventing the internet. Right?
Yeah. That was my uncle. No, I'm just...
This guy we're going to have on the show actually did.
Oh.
And that's where the WWW comes from.
Walter Winchell?
No, you think it stands for World Wide Web, because that is a deep state government plot to cover up the actual origin of the internet.
Okay.
So they called it the worldwide, so that everybody would think, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to have on the show Wacky Wyoming Willie. And that's where the
Wacky Willie.
Wacky Willie. He's going to come down from the mountain.
I was going to say, I think when we were in Wyoming, I thought I heard some rumor about him.
He was making rumblings about coming down out of the hills.
Yeah.
And he's going to make it all the way to San Antonio. I have no idea because of the way he travels, which is strange.
By mule?
You never know.
I could see that.
So he doesn't even know.
Yeah.
He won't be able to tell you when he gets
Well,
here.
it's from Wyoming. It could be a mule.
We have no idea when he's going to get here. But within the next couple of 3 weeks, Wacky Wyoming Willie will stop by. So just to give you the audience a little heads up on who's going to be here. So we're going to have I'm a Surefire's Aunt Bessie, right? And we're going to have Uncle Botchy's Uncle Botchy. So we'll have
And
Uncle
your two
Botchy
friends.
squared. And then I've got a couple of friends, S.A. and Wacky Wyoming Willie. It ought to be fun.
It should be.
You never
Looking
know what
forward
we're
to
going to
it.
discover. Tonight, as the show title says, we're going to talk about the criminal invasion, which this is the second time since the Doc Owen show has been on the air that the state of Texas is being subjected to this nonsense. And I can't imagine what the other states are going through that are on the U.S.-Mexican border.
Did they receive a letter of that nature?
What?
The criminals, like...
That they were doing criminal trespass?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if
I don't
they
know.
would do that.
No, I don't know. Well, that's a different topic. So, and that and other things. What else does it say on the title besides
World War II and
World
more.
World War III.
Oh, hold on. I don't have my glasses on.
World War
Hold on.
III.
Oh,
I would
yes.
submit to you
Sorry.
if you are not a denizen of alternate media, then you probably know nothing about this. But truthfully, the United States and other countries are close to starting World War III in Syria with Russia, U.S., UK. Everybody is sending troops. France, they put their troops on notice. They're sending ships. Everybody is drawing the lines around Syria. It's not good. I don't have any crystal ball to tell you what's going to happen, but a long time ago, I think it was Albert Einstein that said he was not sure how World War III would be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah,
Wow.
I remember that.
And that I believe it.
Because we're going to
So-
go way back.
Oh,
After this
it'll-
war, it's all over.
it'll knock us
That's right.
hundreds of years
That's
into
right.
the past as a world.
Sure.
Not
Not
as a
just
city,
us.
not as a town, not
No, but
talking
as a
about
world.
as a world.
Watch Netflix.
Well,
We probably wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't even be on
No,
the
you
air.
won't be able to then. I'm
We
just
wouldn't
saying.
be on the air. Yeah, we'd be like on ham radio probably if we're lucky.
If it works.
If we're lucky.
Doesn't it need electricity?
Well,
You
we
can
get
get
some
that from
squirrels
alternate
out.
sources.
We'll get some squirrels out
There
on
you
those
go.
belts, and we'll start working.
So with that note of enthusiasm for the future, let's go back into the past
Yes, sir.
to an equally ominous time in our history when we weren't sure what was going to happen,
That's right.
but we were fairly sure that it wasn't going to be good,
Right.
right?
Right.
Which is why they kicked the can down the road
9
during
presidents,
during
single term.
numerous presidents prior to the kickoff of the event on April the 12th, 1861, as Uncle Bocce reminded us. So, coincidentally, we are reviewing President number
16.
16, who would be one.
Abraham Lincoln.
There you go.
Yes.
Lead the way.
A tall, lanky man.
He really wasn't that tall.
Oh, he was over 6 feet.
No, it was mostly hat.
Oh, well, that added another 10 inches. Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so let's start. I thought my brief tonight is going to be very brief, so I thought I'd take a little bit extra time, if you don't mind. I'm going to read to you, because it's short, the Gettysburg Address.
I drank
Every once in a while, we need to hear this.
I am still in birthday mode.
Okay.
I drank one glass more than my half of the bottle of wine this afternoon. You take all the time you want.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay. Of course, this was Abraham Lincoln, and he was at Gettysburg, and he was memorializing those who died in the great battle of Gettysburg. One of the most famous speeches in the world, and it's short. It's like,
Me.
yeah, or it's like the Declaration of Independence. Short, but has a lot in it. Okay, so here it goes. This is what Abraham Lincoln said on that fateful day.
You want me to read you my opening quote again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip with others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love.
Good.
Does that explain,
Yeah,
support what you're saying?
it sure does.
Okay, go.
Okay, so listen to the great one. fourscore and 7 years ago, everybody knows that line,
Yes.
right?
They don't know what
Our
it means,
fathers
but they-
brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Yes.
For a man who didn't have an education, he knew the Constitution.
You had a good writer.
Yeah. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, and that nation might live.
Okay.
It is altogether fitting and proper that we should not dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. What a humble man,
Yep.
right? I mean, he knew how to do it. The world will little note nor long remember that or what we say here, but it can never forget what they died here. Forget what they died here, yeah.
Right.
It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they here to the unfinished work, I'm repeating myself, sorry, who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, and it still remains before us. That's my comment. That from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain.
Right.
That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. What a man. What a man.
Who said that?
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
It wasn't his son. It was Abraham. It's just absolutely incredible. And those words ring true today, just as for any war that we fought for freedom for any country. It's the same thing. So thank you, Abraham Lincoln, for leaving us with those words. So we'll talk a little bit about Abraham Lincoln. Remember, he served 2 terms, or part of it. Last week we talked about the first term and what went on.
He was elected twice.
He was elected twice. Yes. Thank you. And there's some interesting things about the second campaign. First of all, Lincoln did not want to run under the Republican ticket. Okay? Because he was concerned about the unity of the, and he felt that some Republicans in the North would not accept the South or whatever. So what he did was, even though he was still Republican, he brought together what is called the National Union Party, and that's what he ran under.
Really?
Yeah, he ran under
the first time or the second time?
The second time. First time was strictly Republican.
Okay.
He's still a Republican, but he wanted to bring in all of the other people who may be adversely affected by what's going on with the war.
Okay.
So it included mainline Republicans.
Yeah.
It included the Unionist Party, and it also included war Democrats. Believe it or not, there were Democrats who were on Lincoln's side.
Yeah, of course.
So he wanted to pull them in because he
Mm-hmm.
was unsure because of the war whether he was going to win or not. Brilliant, brilliant. There's only one thing that went wrong with that, and we'll talk about that later. So the campaign of 1864 was Abraham Lincoln against one of his generals, George B. McClellan. He ran as a Democrat.
Right.
And Abraham Lincoln ran under the National Union. He, of course, we know he was from Illinois. And McClellan was actually from New Jersey, my home state. Abraham Lincoln won hands down. Hands down. Now, you have to remember, the southern states were now the Confederate states. So they had no participation in this election.
Oh.
They did not participate in the election.
That's something that we don't think about.
Right, exactly. It is. I mean, interesting things that we don't know. I didn't know about the National Union Party. I didn't know that the Southern I never thought about it.
Yeah, I never thought about it either. It was perfectly logical.
Absolutely.
Right.
So there were needed to win 117 electoral votes out of a total of 233. Abraham Lincoln garnered 212 of those electoral votes. McClellan only got 23 from 3 states: Kentucky, Delaware, and New Jersey.
Wow.
Not even where he was from. Well, he was from New Jersey, so he
right.
won. He won that. So that's and of course, joining in the electoral college
I
was
would
Nevada.
consider that to be a bit of a mandate.
Yeah,
to your platform.
Exactly.
To your message. Yep.
Exactly. So, as far as his cabinet is concerned,
refresh my memory.
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking
If I
about.
can remember.
You're talking about that. Right there was the second election.
Yes, this
right?
is the election of 1864, not 1860. We did
Okay,
that
so
last week.
all right, but so the first election, 1860, the Civil War had not started.
No, it
Right.
had not.
the second election, 1864, we were like halfway through.
Yeah, exactly.
The Civil War was ongoing.
Yeah.
In other words, it was in full stride.
Yeah.
And yet we had a national election
Right.
for, the offices, et cetera. In other words, the United States maintained its charter.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And what's interesting about that is, Lincoln could have said, well, it's time of war, like Roosevelt did.
Right.
And just went on and just stayed president, didn't bother running. I mean, he could have done that. Right?
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was a wise man because what was his purpose? His purpose was was the Union.
He was
to maintain the Union.
He was a man of high integrity.
Exactly. And he wanted to maintain.
History proved him to be wise.
Absolutely.
At the time,
And
he
honest.
was a man of high integrity.
Because of his hat?
Partially, yeah.
So, anyway,
okay, go ahead.
He maintained the same cabinet, didn't change any of the people in the cabinet.
Right.
Okay? And a couple of things about two states that joined the Union under his first term.
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia, was one of
Okay.
them. Nevada was the other. There was not too much to say about Nevada, but West Virginia is a story in itself. What happened is on June 20th, 1863, West Virginia gained admission. That's when it became the 35th state in the Union. Now, the background of that is that West Virginia was born out of sectional differences during the Civil War.
Okay.
Well, imagine that. Virginia, in its own little world, was experiencing exactly the same thing that the North and the South were. Because the Western Virginians, they were always against slavery. They didn't want anything to do. And they tried, even after the Revolutionary War, to establish themselves as a state.
Right.
But they just couldn't get it through. So that's what happened with the Virginia. That's how West Virginia became a state. So I just thought that was an interesting story because it's something that most people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, his court appointments, but we went over that last week.
Yeah.
That's basically all I have for tonight. So I'm glad I had time to read the Gettysburg Address.
But we're doing three.
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
We're going to do number 3, not next week. Wait a minute.
We don't know. When
am I not going to be here? On the 20th. It will be next week.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So we
The
hadn't
next
worked
time
out.
Uncle Bot
Yeah,
is
we
here.
got some things coming up on the 19th. The 26th, we know Uncle Bocce won't be here. Ima and myself might be gone the 19th, so we'll try to work all things out.
We'll
but
work it out.
nonetheless, the next time that all three of us are together,
Yes.
let's put it that way,
Yes.
we will do number 3 of Abraham Lincoln, which we normally do 2.
Right.
So, that shows you the impact that his presidency plus a little, or his presidency actually, but his, term and
Tremendous.
change had on the United States.
Yeah, but remember this too. One thing that just popped in my mind with the National Union Party, Abraham Lincoln was more concerned, as we were saying, in the unity, maintaining the unity of the country,
Right.
rather than his party.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that, folks.
Yeah. Well,
Lincoln did the
because
right
if they've
thing.
been listening to the show, there was a time in the United States where we had elections before there were parties.
Yeah.
In other words, the parties are they've been manufactured. They were manufactured way back in the day by professional politicians designed to get their party represented elected.
Exactly.
And so and I forgot, it was long about president number 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well,
Who was it?
Well, George Washington did not want party at all.
Right.
So then, when
But where did it start?
it started, it started with the 7th president, Andrew Jackson.
There you go.
Now there were party,
But it was
names
Andrew
before that.
Jackson's vice president that actually became the party guy.
Martin Van Buren.
Right. Designed, devised, and what has now morphed into our current two-party system.
And he did it around Andrew Jackson.
And it's very, 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 very important that the audience gets that.
Yes.
that the United States of America, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, who we are as a country, was not designed around or for a two-party system.
That's correct.
Two-party system was manufactured by politicians
Absolutely.
to get elected and take your money.
Power and
called
control.
Taxes
Mm-hmm.
and control. Mm-hmm. And it has now been going on for a long, long time.
Too long.
And it will go on for a long time to come.
Mm-hmm. Take a long time to pay $21 trillion.
But the point is, don't let it fool you. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Don't get caught up in it and just vote for the party because that's
right.
the way you have to do it.
No.
The way you have to do it is to do your homework and grab one from column A and one from column B and vote for the country, not the party.
That's true.
Or the personality.
And that's a really hard message. That goes right back to what Ima said at the beginning of the show. Would you please read that quote again?
It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it.
There you go.
What did I just tell you about two-party systems?
Right.
Perfect.
Exactly. Boy, how things tie in.
Yep.
Everything ties in.
Yeah, we are. If you don't think we're connected, we are.
You just got to be intelligent enough to follow it. Border Patrol reports large groups of migrants crossing into Texas, is the headline.
How's that possible?
It's been a long time since I've read from the news. Border Patrol agents in the Rio Grande Valley sector are reporting large groups of illegal immigrants crossing the Texas border with Mexico. According to a statement circulated Tuesday, that would be last Tuesday, they are mostly composed of unaccompanied minors and families from Central America. So, here we go again, folks.
Rewind, play.
Spring, yeah. Lather, well, rinse, right? And repeat.
That's right.
And somebody, sooner or later, is going to have to... Every time this comes up, it's like my head explodes. As to
it really does, too. Believe me, it's a sight.
As to why this makes sense. Dinner conversation. San Antonio and elsewhere, a lot of places, particularly in the food and the fast food business, groceries, anything having to do with service, low-level service-like employees. We were talking about E-Verify and restaurants that guarantee that you're being served with citizens versus restaurants that may or may not care so much about that. And one of their things, one of their reasons, one of their logics that they tell you is that, well, if we hire citizens, our prices will have to go up. We're getting cheap labor. We hear cheap labor all the time, right? That's true. That's a true statement on their part. But one of the dots that we don't connect is these illegal immigrants, these invaders, wind up getting food stamps, medical assistance, housing, education. What else? Welfare in a lot of cases. I would submit to you, I'd rather pay the higher price for my food, I guarantee you, than the taxes I'm having to pay to support all of this nonsense. It's not cheap. What I'm telling you is it's not cheap labor.
That's right.
Right.
It may be cheap labor to the bottom line of the business that employs them, but it's not cheap labor to those of us who are consuming the fried chicken.
Absolutely. Boy, that is definitely a brainy quote.
That's an expensive piece of chicken when you add all the overhead to it.
Very well said, too. Got to write that one
But
down.
you got to think, you got to connect things that they don't, that these two-party system does not want you to connect.
They don't want you to look beyond the shadow of the wall. They want you to look like right in front of your
Don't
face. And
never
that's it.
look behind the curtain. You know, they want. That's why they have to keep anger and discord and anxiety between the two parties in front of us. And that's all that is. It's just
Noise.
It's just noise. It's just white noise. So we can't really hear or see what's going on, right? World War III. Uncle Bocce, what do you know about it? What have you heard? What have you read? What have you seen? How close are we?
How close are we?
Yeah. What do you
Well,
think?
we're close to war no matter what day of the week it is, all the time.
Okay.
Because there is a screwed up world out there.
Okay.
As well as screwed up people here in the United States.
Okay.
Okay? That war, it could explode at any time.
And one of the problems with what you said is that the messed up people, the screwed up people, a lot of them are in charge.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I mean, they may be well educated. They may speak well. They look nice. Everything about them is the appropriate image that our eyes and brains are expecting to see. Right?
Exactly.
And we're programmed to accept what they say as a result of their appearance, their platform, blah, 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 blah. Right? You can't do that.
Right.
That's what's getting us to the brink. I'm here to tell you, looking at the alternate media sites that I follow, blog sites that I follow, folks with superior educations and experience in the arena are really, really concerned.
Yes.
Right now. Because of who we have in power. Not Mr. Trump.
No.
But the deep state that is pushing him to believe things that there are people in the world saying they are not true. Our Secretary of Defense, who is
Mattis?
Mattis, and the Russian counterpart have both said there was no gas put out in Syria. They have no evidence of poison gas being used.
I got news for them. They haven't been watching, well, not the news, but there are things on TV where you can see those poor kids who are in hospital or dead with foam on their mouth, just lying all over the place. That's gas.
You sure?
Yes, that's gas that killed those people. Now, of course, they don't want Mattis. I don't know.
I'm going to test you.
Yeah, Mattis isn't exactly a war hawk.
No.
Not at all.
Nope.
So I can understand why he might
Both of
go
this.
along with that. Putin, you puke.
Oh.
Putin, he's interested only in Russia and becoming dictator, which eventually he probably will become. So why would he say, and he's responsible for that chemical weapons, because he was supposed to take it out under Obama, remember? That was the agreement. But 9 times since then, Syria has gassed its own people?
No, they have not.
Who did it then?
The people disrupting, what are they called? The terrorists are doing it. The government's
ISIS?
not doing it. They're doing it
You
to their
talking
own.
about ISIS?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I do.
I don't think I think ISIS has really lost a lot of power.
I think
in
it's all.
Syria.
I think it's the CIA doing it. I think it's a complete setup to get
okay.
both countries.
Here we go.
Exactly.
Here we go. Conspiracy. Well,
it's not a conspiracy if it's true.
True.
And
yes.
most of the conspiracies that have been out there lately have all wound up being factual, 18, 24, 36 months later.
Yeah. But
or longer, depending on how good they were at covering it up.
Yeah, you might have a point there because
not me. It's not
whoever
me.
it is.
I'm taking it in from a lot of people who are.
There's been a lot of what they call proxy wars.
Yep.
Where the big guys don't really want to fight one another, but
because
they'll go
they
to another country and fight there.
Well, I get that. Well, no, I get that. That's fine. We got to have some place. Got to have some place to practice.
Yeah.
And build up the war arsenal, et cetera, et cetera. But I am absolutely convinced that the weapons of mass destruction, the gases that are going off in Syria, are a setup to get this world to go to war.
I'm trying to think of who would be involved in that would want that to happen.
New World Order, deep state.
Oh, those people.
Those people.
Oh. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Who benefits?
They don't remember history.
They don't care.
I know they do.
They remember history quite well. They think they failed the last time.
Yeah. Okay, I see your point.
They think they failed. This time they're going to do a better job.
Yeah, just like they did with Venezuela.
No.
Sorry.
This time they failed. Going all the way back, there are ties. There are implications of the Rothschilds. There are implications of the Bilderbergers, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Back in the days of Hitler, all right, they failed at world dominance. They didn't quit. They just failed because of the United States.
So comes Obama. He fits right into that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was trying to destroy this country. Fits
there
right
still
in.
Are. No.
Connected. I know they still are, but I mean,
they still are.
In his presidency, he was full locomotive.
And it's not about Russia conquering us or China conquering us.
You're right.
Or us conquering them or anything else. It's about pitting us against each other so that we are all gone.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And it's not going to be the apocalypse, people, because the apocalypse will end up in something good.
That's man-made. Then then you go over to the biblical side, upon which I am not a scholar.
Yeah.
I would like to know more, but I am not a scholar, so I sort of refrain from.
Sure, I understand.
I get it logically, and I mean I understand it and I believe in it and I trust in it, but I just can't quote chapter and verse.
Yeah.
But that apocalypse, I mean, at the same time all this man-made stuff going on, there's a lot of natural disasters brewing as well. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the biggest picture, at the bigger picture, I would submit to you that God is sitting out there watching the whole thing. And he may well wipe it out before they can wipe it out. They being the new, I've got hands going, before the New World Order, before it can be man-made. Or it may all come to pass at once. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. No. I'm not. But I am saying if we don't stop the conflict, then that's where we're headed. Mm-hmm. And the conflict either in Syria or the conflict between parties or the conflict here, if we don't stop the conflict and figure out a way to do it together, it'll happen. It's a natural consequence. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. What's wrong with my logic?
No, there's nothing wrong with your logic, but it's making me think about, the good and evil.
Good. Well, I mean, I'm glad that it's making you think.
No, because there are good people in this world.
Absolutely.
Okay? But what's happening with all this New World Order?
Yep.
That is pure evil.
Yes.
It is pure evil.
Yeah.
Now, so
There's always been a
Evil
devil
will
and a God on
never
earth.
win. Evil will never win over the truth, over the good.
So you're told.
Temporarily, maybe,
So you're told.
but the truth will never die.
So you're told.
What do you mean, so I'm told? That's what I believe. Not what somebody told me.
Well, you know, somebody had to tell you. You didn't come into the world with that belief.
Oh, you'd be surprised at my birth.
Wow.
My mother didn't know whether to speak English or
I
Italian.
don't even want to know. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
It's a part of
It's a
your
good conversation.
it's a part of your environment.
Yes.
All
Yes.
three of us, and an awful lot of our audience, grew up in that same environment. Mm-hmm. So we believe,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. I mean, I'm convinced it's a good thing. But at the same time, there's a portion of us that has to be realistic.
True.
There's a portion of us that has to deal with the outside world.
Yeah.
With others
Okay.
in quotation.
Why does that portion of us not include the federal government or Putin's government? Why does it not include them?
Because
You know,
a correct thinking, high integrity, high ethics individual is completely eliminated from that kind of service very early in their career. They get cut off at the city council if they're on the political side going up and through there. They get cut off at the school board and city council level.
Yeah.
And don't ask me why. I mean, if I had an answer, guess who I'd be. But it get cut off, and the same thing's true in business. I got a PhD in ethics. I've done the research. I can tell you, ethical people do not rise to the top, except on very rare occasions. That's why it's such a big deal when one becomes a Jack Welch or one becomes somebody that's the head of a Fortune 500 company, because they've had to fight, claw, cheat, lie, whatever it took to get to the top.
That's true.
And by the time they've done that, it's very hard for them to go back to their roots. And if they try to do that, they'll get bumped out of office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it became their goal. It's hard. It can be done. It has been done.
But it's rare.
It's very rare.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So what?
I don't know.
So now, give me. Well, now, what's wrong with my logic?
There's nothing wrong with your logic. Your
Okay.
logic makes perfect sense, and I think we need to. I'm glad that you're putting it out there because our audience needs to hear that.
Well, particularly our young audience, and when
Exactly.
I talk ethics, when I talk what my training is, if you're going to go into the business world and carry forward good, solid Christian beliefs and ethical posture, et cetera, expect the business world to be extremely hard on you, unless you wind up in a very unique organization, which there's just fewer and fewer of them around because they can't compete with cheap labor. Very few people understand what happens to the price of a piece of chicken because of taxes and yada, yada. They think of it
Exactly.
as cheap labor. Same thing's true in the business world for ethical people to work their way to the top.
So then, could you again? I'm going back to the government thing.
Yep.
Do you exclude anyone in government from being ethical? Are there any ethical? Politicians?
My brain would explode if I didn't say yes, there are. But they are definitely in the minority.
Yes, they are.
And they represent a very select group of individuals in this country that puts them in office and continues to put them in office. But I bet you if you find them, and we can look at people's records and see who they are, they get very little accomplished.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? They're there.
Yeah, they're there.
They're there. I'm not saying the entire government is crooked. Comey and the FBI and all this stuff that's going on. I've said it before. The entire FBI is not crooked.
Right. But let me ask you this question. The just went away.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question concerning ethics.
Yes.
Oh gosh, go ahead. Continue on. It went right out of my mind.
Write these
I don't
things
know where
down.
it went.
Well, you were talking. Well, I'll try to help you get it back. You were talking about the government and ethical practitioners of government and non-ethical practitioners.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think that a politician is ethical if he does absolutely nothing positive for the American people and then decides, I'm closing my book, I'm out of here? Is that ethical of a politician, a countryman, to do that? Or doesn't even fall into the area of ethics?
Well, first of all, understand that the reason that they call ethical challenges are called ethical dilemmas and not problems is because there is no answer. There is no solution. It's not an A plus B equals C. It's an ethical dilemma. And so, yes, it borders or it includes ethics as part of the challenge that you just presented. All right? So what you said was we sent an ethical congressman up there. Isn't that what you said? And he got very little done. And then he packed his stuff and came home. Isn't that what you said?
But then leaves us to pay the bill. That's the other part of it that I didn't mention.
What do you mean leaves us to pay the bill?
They get there, they get rich, they pass a bill, and then they leave.
You just crossed the line. If they got rich, they're unethical.
Yeah, well, they all name me one politician who isn't rich.
I don't know them all.
There you go. You don't know them all. Okay.
But I would submit to you that there are politicians who have not lined their own pockets. Okay. They've made a name for themselves. They might have used that name to do something else. But if they're getting rich because of government service, inside information, unethical practices while they're in office, then they're not ethical. You follow me?
Got that.
And so, but we have different standards. We have there's a thing called craft ethics. Politicians think all politicians are doing it, therefore it's ethical.
Yeah.
Car salesmen, sorry guys and girls, car salesmen have their own set of ethics. Okay, the people who run the convenience stores in this country have their own set of ethics that is way different from the rest of us. But in their trade, in their business, it's okay because this is the way this business is run. And politics is one of the least ethical businesses in the world. Always has been. By a purist in ethics. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Makes absolute.
It doesn't.
I learned a lot tonight.
It's not something that you like.
Yeah.
And those of us who think we're way over on the purist side of ethics, it's very disconcerting. But it's the world. And so you can either get in there with them and try to beat them, or try to live your life without that interfering with what you do, which is what most highly ethical people do. They pick a trade that. Rut-row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.